Hello and welcome to the video session on trainer activities. During this video session, we'll be covering the activities that a trainer performs during the time when they're delivering a training session. In the world of film, music, football, there are certain performers that stand out from the crowd. And why? Why do they stand out more than any of the other players, musicians? Is it genius? Is it hard work? Is it inspiration? Concentration? Is it a talent? Is it a technique? And what makes a great trainer? Well, luckily, you're not born a great trainer. It's a skill that you can learn. And once you've learned those skills, you can use them. Anyone can use them who wants to actively seek to perform a brilliant classroom session or conference or meeting. Great trainers believe in the ability of their participants to achieve. You need to feel that they can achieve what you're going to present to them. There's a man called Carl Rogers. He's an influential psychologist from the 20th century. He said that, and I'm going to quote, so bear with me whilst I just read this. Humans have a natural potential for learning. And it's true. We're learning all the time. It's part of our makeup. And great trainers nourish individuality as well. Different people learn in different ways. And a great trainer can recognise that and build a course so that everybody feels that they're able to contribute. They match the key objectives of the course to the different learning styles and activities that they'll perform so that everyone can benefit. So let's have a look at our aims and objectives for this session. Well, the aim is to cover the 7 training activities, and there are 7. Remember I've said that. And these are all part of a training course to some degree. And as we go through each one, you'll recognise these, and you'll recognise them even from daily routine, daily conversations. And at the end of the module, the key objectives are that you'll be able to list these 7 training activities, and you'd be able to write a brief example to show your understanding of each one. But you'll also be building in these training activities into your own delivery session later in this online course. So I said there were 7 key training activities, and here we have them listed on the board. We have signposting, and that's indicating where the course is going to go. Giving instruction, that's probably a fairly obvious one. You think, a trainer, they're giving me instructions. These are instructions to do something. Click, watch, take notes. There's also giving information, and that's the facts and the concepts and the rationale behind why you're doing something. The background info. And then there's seeking new information. We should always be asking questions, getting new information, because that helps build on the experiences that the people on your course are having. They can learn from others. There's checking knowledge and understanding. When you get to a session, you need to make sure that they've understood what you've covered so far before you move on to the next topic. Giving encouragement. Again, this is something that is vital. We all feel better when we know that someone is rooting for us and encouraging us to do something and praising us when we've done it well. And remember, the participants on your course are no different. Also, there are demonstrations. There are times when certain things have to be demonstrated, but learners do by doing. You need to do something to learn it and to fully understand and be able to apply it. And in this context of today's video, we're looking at demonstrations that the trainer will perform, but your participants just sit and watch. So let's take each one in turn, starting with signposting. What's on a signpost? It might tell you where you're going. It might tell you the distance. Perhaps if you're going for a walk or a cycle ride, you may be on a path, a specific path that tells you the duration of this particular journey as well. And the same with the training session. At the start of every training session, you set the goals. You set the expectations. What you're going to start with, then what you're going to do, and then how it's going to conclude. For example, I said we'll start by looking at the aims and objectives. I then gave you the list of the 7 key training activities, and now we're looking at each one in turn. So I'm just signposting how we're going to work through this. And if we bring the text on screen here that goes with our signpost, it's telling the learners when, how, and in what format the session is going to run, what they can expect from it. Signposting itself will take up to about 2 to 10% of your course delivery. We'll cover all the percentages again at the end. So giving instructions. Now I said this was the do. This is telling people to write this down, watch this video, follow me, break into groups, discuss. So you're telling them what they've got to do. We've got one here. We've got a nice example with the dog training. Next, go to the guard menu and select bark. Okay. Now, if I were to, just as a little example, and hopefully when we join up again online, it'll be interesting to see your responses. You won't be able to know what other people who are watching this video have written down, and I don't know what any of you have written down. But I'm going to ask you to write 3 things. One will be the name of a colour. The second one is the name of a flower. And the third one is a piece of furniture. I know there's only 3, so you don't have to write them down, but perhaps you can remember them. 3 things: a colour, a flower, and a piece of furniture. If you ask enough people those questions, and then you analyse the answers, you will end up with an awful lot of people choosing red, a rose, and a chair. Expected answers. Be interesting to hear which 3 you selected. But let's move on to giving information. Now this one, you're probably thinking, yes, we understand that. That is all part and parcel of a course. And I'm not going to tell you anything about that, but I'm going to read my notes, because this will help you understand why I'm having to read my notes. When you're giving information, how many words a minute do you think we speak? Okay. Up to 200 a minute. Quite surprising, that. Certain people, you know the talking books, you've heard those? 150 to 160 words a minute is what is recommended. And I am trying to slow my speech down for this. I'm not talking at the same rate that I would talk to my friends. And what about the other extremes? The auctioneers. 250 to up to 400 words a minute. But can we make sense? We know what's going on, but we're missing half of it. And the fastest female talker is a lady called Fran Capo. Believe it or not, she can speak at 600 words a minute. And as we're speaking, as we're doing these words per minute, within a period of about 8 to 10 seconds, we can give anything from 3 to 8 facts. And now I'm going to read you a little section, and it'll be surprising how much you take in immediately, but then would be completely lost if I were to ask you information. So let me just have a go. Just a little snippet of information that might appeal. The International Space Station is a space station or a habitable artificial satellite in low Earth orbit. It orbits at a height of 400 kilometres and it goes at a speed of 7.66 kilometres per second with a maximum speed of 27,600 kilometres per hour. It circles the Earth approximately 16 times a day. It was launched back on November the 20th, 1998, and cost $150 billion US. Now, if I gave you a test on that at the end of this session, I bet you wouldn't remember half of it. So there are certain times where giving information needs to be backed up with notes, drawing either verbal pictures so that someone can imagine, or presenting a picture on a screen. Keep it all short and to the point. Short, sharp sentences. And I think we've already mentioned that pausing and using silence so that your learners can assimilate the information and take in those facts and reorder them in their own brains that suits their way of learning, that's beneficial. Don't be afraid of the silence. So giving information, it could be, as we did at the beginning, the aims, the objectives, the purpose, an overall view of the process, statements of facts or principles, and don't overload with too much information unless you have other methods, other information handouts or sources where these pieces of information can be checked upon. And one final point, I'll give you a moment just to read through this at the bottom. Okay. So this person says, sorry, my email looks like this, but the spacebar is broken because of whatever reason. If you don't use the power of silence and those pauses and take deep breaths and separate your words and your phrases carefully, you will sound like this looks. Okay, seeking new information. Why do we do it? Well, we need to ask questions. We need to ask questions to identify facts and principles, opinions of the people in the group. There may be things that have not been established in earlier learning. There may be experiences that individuals have come across that would enrich the course no end. But you need to ask questions to get that information from them. If you're asking questions where there's right and wrong answers, you'll learn how to do that correctly. But if you're just getting opinions or ideas, use the words think or guess at the beginning of your phrases, of your questioning, because then it'll give the learner an indication that it doesn't matter what they say, to a certain degree, but there's no right or wrong answer. It'll allow them to express themselves better. And always use the seeking information throughout your course, because you do want to consolidate each section, each piece of learning, all the way through. So ask questions to elicit the new explanations, facts, people's opinions, to find out their experiences, to keep your participants thinking and on the ball, keep them alert, and to maintain that interaction and rapport that you've built up. Checking knowledge and understanding. Now, as you go through the course, checking that they've understood a section before you move on is vital, particularly for certain applications where one topic is dependent on knowing a previous topic or process. A trainer can check a learner's knowledge and understanding not just by asking questions. There are other giveaways. They might have done a task or an exercise, and that'll give you the indicator. You may observe that they're doing something that you've asked them to do. They're able to do something. You're walking around a class and you can see that they're operating a computer, for example. And also listening. A trainer is an active listener. They don't only hear the words that the people are saying, but they hear all the shuffles, the sighs, oh, yes, got it. So you're then able to realise that the understanding, the knowledge is beginning to be taken in and assimilated. Checking knowledge and understanding should be anything from about 12 to 25% of your course. It's vital. It's a vital element. So use it throughout to check that the transfer of skills and information has gone through. It helps you stay on target. It builds confidence. It keeps your learners alert. And it's also a good recap. When we talk about checking knowledge and understanding, you might be interested in the laws of forgetting and the laws of remembering. So we'll start with the laws of forgetting. Surprisingly, we forget 50% of what we hear immediately. Now, it wasn't long ago I read you a little bit about the space station. How much of that would you remember if I asked you now? We also forget 75% of what we've heard within 2 months. And of the 25% that we do retain, only 60% of it's correct. And we'll add bits to it. We'll elaborate on things that weren't even said in the first place. Quite surprising. So what about the laws of remembering? Well, we remember the things that we heard last. It's easier to remember something that was very recently said. Something that is very frequently said, we also remember. So something you hear most often, it gradually sinks in. So that repetition. Impact. You imagine something's said to you and it creates a great impact because of what else is going on around you, or what has happened, or the way that they've demonstrated it. And finally, application. We tend to remember the things that we've got a use for. And remembering and not forgetting those laws, we'll move on. Giving encouragement. When people have got something right, you need to be that cheerleader who gives the pats on the back, tells them, yes, you've done well, good job, great, thumbs up. No can'ts, we can do it. Give encouragement throughout the course and tie your feedback and your responses, your encouragement to something they've done. Might be a task, might be a question that they've just answered for you, but acknowledge something physical, something that's happened. And be sincere. The reason we do it motivates them, it encourages them to participate more, and it builds confidence. And we come to the final one of our 7, the actual demonstrations that a trainer may perform. These are often used where you have perhaps an end-to-end process that you want to show before you start doing each section. It might be to give them an overview of the whole process. It may also be for something where you're using a live system that you can't possibly use for training. It may be something that's dangerous or extremely complex. It may even be a demonstration of something that you can show them in the classroom, but then you go outside. You have to go outside to do the actual physical task. Physical demonstrations can be anything from nothing to up to 35% of a course, depending on the content. But try and limit it as far as you, the trainer. You don't want to be doing the demonstrations because someone learns by doing. Adults learn by doing themselves, not by watching someone else. You have to do. So keep your demonstrations to a minimum, and where you do them, follow up with an activity where the person who is learning the topic can get a hands-on involvement as soon as possible. A couple of little phrases for you. One is a saying from Benjamin Franklin: "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. But involve me and I learn." And the other one here: "I hear and I forget. I see and I understand. I do and I remember." That's not attributed to anyone as far as I could find out. But it backs up what we're saying about these physical demonstrations that a trainer does. If you just tell somebody how to do something, it doesn't make too much sense. If they see you do it as the trainer, they sort of understand, but until they do it themselves, it really doesn't sink in, and they're not able to apply it as well back in their workplace. So let's sum up. Remember, the last thing you heard, the most recent information, or the most frequently said information, is what you might remember. So here we have the 7 key training activities: the signposting, the giving instruction, giving information, seeking the new information by asking the questions, using questions to check knowledge and understanding, giving the feedback and the verbal encouragement for motivation purposes, and then demonstrations. And here I've included all the percentages. Now if you add them up, they don't add up to 100%, but they're guidelines. And when you're developing your own session that you're going to deliver, ensure that you've got at least 6 out of the 7 of these in your course. You may not be doing a demonstration. And try and gauge it right with these percentages. So something to think about for when you do your online delivery in a later session when we do the course together. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.